All right, there we go. 2 clips of the dancing Pope. Okay, all right, here's one. I'm gonna throw out an overrated, underrated. Superheroes, superhero protagonists. Oh boy, superhero super teams, man. I'm telling you, mad overrated right now. I am bored with Batman and Iron Man and characters of that genre who exist as kind of contemporary. I don't know if you want to call them like allegories, maybe, for billionaire and super rich American Western capitalist culture. I'm kind of sick of seeing it, man. Sick of seeing only these rich protagonist characters could have solved the problems. It's like, come on, man. Like, I don't need to know about, like, how Tony Stark Industries is the best thing in the world, or how, Batman's billions are his superpower. Tossing that out there. I think that's played. I think we've seen that enough. I don't think there's really much new or interesting if you go that direction. Now, I'm not saying that, like, Tony Stark is a bad character as a generality. I just think that he exists in a media landscape which is saturated with stories of the same variety. The group of super friends is the only people who can do it, And I know it's hard to write a cast of characters that don't have, like, an importance, for the plot that makes them special in relation to, like, the context of the greater story. Like, you got to do something to make them the reason you're focusing on them to some degree, without it just becoming, like, kind of all random happenstance and kind of feeling disingenuous in that direction. But I'll still say that, like, I think there are other stories to be told. Here's an example of something that I think, like, is close but didn't hit the mark. Hancock. Hancock is a story that if you watch maybe, I don't know, like the first half of that movie before a bunch of extra superheroes show up and turn out they're all gods and stuff, spoilers, the beginning of this is really interesting. You have a character who can't die and is basically just, like, going through the motions of saving people and kind of in almost like an existential, like, hangover from having power and seeing all the people he cares about disappear over time and how long he's existed. That kind of detachment and showing how you can lose your humanity through the access to these unreasonable abilities and powers, and the amount of, like, the more unhuman you are by nature, the more inhuman you may become as you deal with the kind of banalities and mundanities of life. I think that is, like, super fertile territory. If you want to take the superhero genre, give me a well-written Hancock story. Give me the alcoholic superhero who's been around 200 years. He doesn't die. He sees everybody. He doesn't care about anyone. He's going through the motions just because he's like, I think that's what I should do. And he's, like, really questioning, like, what is his purpose? Why does he keep doing it? Because, if he's going to live forever, he saves the person today from falling off that building. 80 years later, they're going to have a heart attack. Does he go into their hospital bed and save them? How does he choose which people are worth saving? Those are the questions that I think haven't been hit really hard in the superhero genre, and I think that's where it needs to go. So I really think the superhero genre needs to find a way to reconnect itself to humanity in a way that doesn't, like, undercut the narrative, right? Or completely erase the character history that they established previously. So, like, for example, Man of Steel, the one of the more recent Superman works that's been made, tried to go that route to be like, hey, like, you're always saving people, and maybe you don't want to do that anymore. That's not who Clark Kent, that's not who Superman is in my mind, so it seems a little unbelievable. But I like the idea, right? I don't necessarily like that execution. Unfortunately, I feel like the 2 movies I can throw up as examples are ones I'm not a big fan of execution-wise, but I still think that they're, like, from their intent, they're trying to tell a story that we don't get told nearly enough, which is, like, that disconnected nature of trying to be above humans so much will make you inhuman as a result. And I think that there's, like, a really good allegorical story available in a lot of different lenses, and that would be really good. So cute anime girls, overrated, underrated, underrated. I mean, come on, man. Cute anime girl. Actually, no, really. Cute anime girls are getting overrated. Let's be real. After Earth-chan, like in 2020 or 2019. I think I'm done. We don't need like a bunch of that. I think it's in the same thing. Like, it's cool and fine, but I don't think we need to like sexualize Samsung. Let me just put it out there. Like the Samsung thing, like that's like, all right, Rule 34, internet, go for it. But I'd say that's a little overrated. Power immortality, good or bad? Immortality, good or bad? Can I ask you, Wolf, what do you mean by good or bad? Like, what's the moral framework that we're looking at? Is the frame of reference like internally, like my own, like if I was immortal, would I want that, good or bad? Or is it like a kind of more universal, like is that bad for humanity? Is that bad for a story? Good or for a story? Where is that? What's the reference point for the good or bad side of that? Because I'm down for that question. I'll be honest, my answer would be very dependent on the frame of reference here. Like, if you're talking, for me, would I want to be immortal? No. God, no. No. That's, like, absolute nightmare. An absolute nightmare. No. Yeah. Immortality, living forever, for me, would be such a nightmare. Oh, God. Oh, God. I like having friends and stuff, right? And imagine you live in a world where, like, you live so long that every friend you ever make, as soon as you meet them, you know it's going to end somehow sadly for you. It's like... Immortality would be like living in a world where your puppies only lasted a month. How many puppies are you really going to keep going and bringing in your home if you know they're only going to last a month? You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be a tragedy, an unending tragedy to watch everything you love fall apart in such a way and have no power to also fall apart. And to remember all of that and to go through all of those heartbreaks over and over and over with no end in sight. Ooh, that is true nightmare fuel for me. That, to me, that's, like, so existential, like, dread side, like, that's the type of stuff what I'm talking about, like, a superhero movie that contends with that idea. Push that envelope, right? At first, yeah, it's great. You're like, awesome. Like, what would I want to do if I had, like, 200 years on the planet and I could make all the money and do anything I wanted? And then eventually, what do, man? Like, we've seen this. You just get weird, get a castle, and live on your own for a while. And that's cool, but then, like, what do you do after that? Like... I don't know, start an army and try to take over the world and then you're responsible for it. Like, there's no good ending to an immortality story. And I think that, like, go back to the story of Dorian Gray. If you haven't read it, Dorian Gray is a really good story about a guy who basically, depending on the story, it's been a while since I read this, makes a deal with the devil basically, and it's like, none of the actions in his life will catch up to him physically. So he'll never age, he'll never get sick, he'll never look poor, whatever. As long and all of the illnesses and kind of misdeeds and misgivings that he puts into the world will be stored in a painting, and he keeps that painting up hidden in his house. You know, Dorian Gray generally, as a story, madly underrated. So then, you know, the character exists for hundreds of years, and he's kind of like a Bram Stoker kind of Dracula, like, hey, I'm super powerful, and like, you know, I've done everything I want, and then somebody basically, you know, starts talking to him, and he's like, oh shit, like, you know, really, at the essence, like, dude's kind of lonely, you know, like, because why wouldn't you be? You're the only person like you in the entire universe, basically, and you're stuck on a planet, and let's be honest, imagine the planet gets, like, uninhabitable, climate change happens, or some other global catastrophe happens, you're immortal and just stuck on the planet. Like, dude, that's the Watchmen, you know? Like, I can't remember the name of the character, the blue guy in the Watchmen, who's just like, yeah, dude, like, I'm not human. I don't know what you guys are doing. I can see multiple universes and realities. I can teleport myself. Here, I'll build a spaceship on Mars, I guess. You know, like, that to me is a character that I want to see more of. I want to see more characters like that. I'd like to see a character like that from start to finish. Either like, let's get an anti-hero of that who's like, I'm gonna be a bad guy, and maybe he turns into being a good guy for a while, but then, like, I don't know, like, there's just so much there that's available. Anyway, so that's my immortality. Definitely huge bad. I'm not saying like I want to die today. Like, I love life, I love what I'm doing every day. Coming in here, hanging out with you guys makes me so happy. But let's be real, 3,000 years of doing this straight, I'd probably start going crazy. I'd probably just be like, you know, it'd be like Thanksgiving rap constantly. It'd just be like I don't know. All right, I'm gonna go get some coffee real quick. I'll be right back, guys. Face. Yeah, man, it would be tough. I'm telling you. If you haven't thought through immortality, do it. Spend some time. Spend some time thinking about it. Because Wolf, I very much agree with that. I think now let's talk about that for a second. Because what happens after that? Maybe you're depressed for 200 years, and then you start coming out the other end. And then what happens, right? There's a story. What do? What does the immortal character do 1,000 years into his immortality? You know, what does he do? Who does he become? Does he become a mockery of who he used to be? Like, God, there's so many good stories. Now, I've heard some people say that's kind of like Doctor Who-esque, somewhat like time travel-y kind of thing. I think it's a little different, but maybe not. I haven't watched a lot of Doctor Who, so you guys can like tell me if I'm totally off on that one. But yeah, I feel like the immortal being going through those kind of transitions or trying to find a purpose, you know, within that framework is very interesting. Honestly, this is going to sound a little strange, but I think it's kind of similar to the story of Dark Souls takes place in. Like, what do you really want to do in Dark Souls, right? Your character is immortal, basically. You die, you come back to the bonfire. Do you just give up and sit around and not ever push the story forward? That's an option. Do you push forward, beat the game? Okay. Then what? The game starts back over and it gets harder. Now what? You know what I mean? Like, Dark Souls is a really good... Dark Souls is exactly what would happen to a person in exactly. If they were immortal. The way you play Dark Souls is who you would be if you were an immortal. Change my mind. At first, we all go through and we're like, hey, Kingseeker Framped, you're great. Oh, yeah, cool. Gwen, whatever. Yeah, I'll do that. And then, like, you start realizing the truth behind all that. And you're like, wait a second. You guys are messing with me? And they're like, yeah, we have been the whole time. Just saying, guys. Just saying. Think about that one for a second. That's a lot. You typed a lot there, Wolf. I'm proud of you.